Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Just Say Maybe podcast. My name is Erica, and we're on a show to talk about mental health, OCD, anxiety, all things related to that. And today I'm with Morgan and Molly from Not Alone Notes. They founded a nonprofit called Not Alone Notes so that you cannot feel alone if you have OCD, anxiety, body dysmorphic disorder, and any kind of other mental health disorders. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on what I know about the nonprofit, and I'm going to ask Molly and Morgan some questions. Not Alone Notes is a nonprofit that's mailed over 3,000 handwritten notes across the U.S. and other countries. I think 50 other countries. Is that right?
Honestly, I've lost count.
Really? Yeah, I can imagine there's I don't even know if there's a running spreadsheet or something, but it must be, there's a lot of people with these kinds of disorders. So I'm sure you're just reaching
Yeah,
a lot of people across
absolutely.
the world. Yeah. Can I ask either one of you to start with an introduction about yourself? Maybe just one thing most people don't know about you, and then how you got into the idea of founding Not Alone Notes.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think most people in the mental health world know I'm a librarian by day. So that's sort of like my actual job. And Not Alone Notes is just a passion project. It started when I was in college. I have always loved stationery and snail mail, and I just had this idea to write letters to other people with OCD. So I put a form on my mental health blog saying, hey, if you have OCD, give me your address and I'll mail you an encouraging note. And people started requesting them, and I just started sending them on stationery, just kind of writing messages to them. And Molly got involved shortly after that.
Yeah, so I saw that Morgan had I was a follower of Morgan's on Twitter, and I saw that she had posted saying sign up for a note, and I wanted to get involved in the mental health, specifically the OCD community. And so I reached out and said that I'm an artist and I'd love to make the cards that she would write the notes on. So she said sure, and so I would end up making a bunch of notes and then not writing in them and sending them to Morgan so that she could then write in them and then send that to the person who signed up for a note.
So
Wow.
it used to be a lot more complicated. Now
Yeah.
we all just decorate cards and write notes. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a lot of coordination because you both live in different states in the US, right? So you would write the note and
Yeah.
then Molly would add the art. So and then I guess
Yeah.
Molly
Right.
would mail it out as well after adding the art, or whoever gets it second, I guess.
It was the other way. So Molly did the
Oh, the other
decoration
way.
and then I
Okay.
would write it and then
Oh,
mail it.
got
Yeah.
it. Okay. Okay.
But now we all
Very
just
cool.
do everything and yeah.
Cool. And do you follow a specific format when you're writing these notes, or is it just depending on what the person said in their request?
Yeah, we sort of used to have sort of templates, but now we ask a little bit of their story if they want to share it, and we sort of base it on that. A lot of it is things that anyone with OCD could benefit from hearing, but yeah, we do try and coordinate it to what they particularly might need to hear for encouragement.
Got it. And do they submit it usually through the website, or is it Instagram, or both?
On our website, we have a link on the top that says sign up for a note. And you can access that through our Instagram with our link in our bio, or Facebook page, or TikTok page. And so, yeah, there's many different ways to sign up, but it all takes you to the same spot, which is a Google form that you can sign up, and then we get your requests through that.
Got it. And you have a bunch of different volunteers, right? That also help you make these cards. Like it's not just
Yeah.
you two anymore.
Now we have a whole team. Yeah. For a while it was just Molly and I for like the first 1,000 or so. I don't even know. But now it's a whole
God,
team.
that
And
is
also,
so
I wanted to
many.
mention that the notes are free and we send them all
Yes.
over the world, like you said, but we don't charge anyone for the notes.
It's amazing. And what's the kind of feedback that you've gotten? Have there been people who kind of have requested multiple notes, or have you heard that some people have recommended Not Alone Notes to others?
Yeah, we don't get a lot of messages back, and that's totally fine. That's not expected. But every once in a while, someone will write back or DM us or share it like on social media, and it's so heartwarming to see them like out in the real world. Like you write this note and you put it in the mailbox, and there it goes. But when you see it with the person and hear that it made a difference is really special.
Have either of you written notes to each other at all? Or has anyone written a note to you, I guess, when you've needed support?
Well,
People have definitely written notes, not
Yeah.
OCD specific, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
well, I got a Not Alone note from Morgan,
Oh,
when
okay.
when she had first started,
Oh,
when
I
it was
see.
not on a handmade card.
Yeah,
Oh,
So
she's
it was
okay.
one of
probably
the
like the fourth
OGs.
person to request a note, or like so early on.
Got it.
And I still have it somewhere.
Aw, that's so nice. I
Sometimes
feel
people do write notes back to our PO
okay.
box.
Oh,
Yes.
nice. Great. So everything's kind of virtual right now, right? Like there's no physical office space.
No, we all just have our stack of cards and fun pens and stickers, and yeah, it's all spread out.
And it's all
Nice.
volunteer based as well. It's just for
Right.
fun and something we do on the side of our regular jobs. We don't get paid for this.
That's it seems like a lot of work, but I'm sure that everyone who gets a note really appreciates it because I do think one of the hardest things about OCD, especially, is when you have really disturbing, intrusive thoughts, you really feel like you can't tell anyone about them. And it's sometimes it's only other people with OCD who really understand what it's like to feel those, to have those intrusive thoughts. And I feel like even talking to therapists sometimes is uncomfortable because, if you think that you're talking about a theme that is really disturbing, your therapist might like report you or they might think you're weird or something like that. And so I feel like, yeah, getting these notes probably means a lot to people, especially people in other countries where I feel like the OCD discourse isn't really developed yet.
Yeah, I know for me, I kept OCD a secret for, I don't know, over 10 years, and I didn't know it was called OCD. I didn't know it had a name. I
Mm.
didn't know it had a treatment. So once I kind of finally figured that out, I just really wanted to dive headfirst into building a community and friends who got it. And so then once I had that, I wanted to share that community with others.
Do
I
you mind?
completely agree.
I was going to ask if either of you would mind sharing a little bit more about your own personal story with OCD and mental health. Like, how did you come to realize that it was OCD? Share a little bit about what early childhood or teenagehood was like.
Sure, I can go first. My OCD started when I was 4, and my main question, asking of reassurance, was walking past things in my house and saying, I think I might have licked this. Am I going to die? And so I
Mm.
was really little, and it would be something like a pencil, or I'd walk past a wall and be like, I think I just licked that wall. Am I going to die? Um, and then my parents were like talking to people, obviously, talking to the pediatrician, and they're like, it's probably just a phase because she's a little kid. And they were, of course, trying to figure out, like, was there like a traumatic death in the family that you think that, like, why am I so concerned about dying? And nothing had happened. It was just random. My parents actually bought me a goldfish, to teach me about death, because they thought that would help. And then the goldfish lived. The goldfish lived for 10 years, so it didn't work.
Oh my God. That's insane. Because they thought the
And
goldfish
then,
was gonna die like quickly. Was that the
yeah, like
story?
just from like a random goldfish from the pet store.
Wow, that's crazy.
um, and so at least like maybe like a month or two, and then they were like, "Oh, might die after that," but then no, that didn't. But um, and then I don't really remember much OCD specifics until around the age of 11 or 12, where I was doing more obvious like tapping, and asking for more reassurance and just being anxious in general about going places. And I think it was like mainly around the fear of throwing up, which has kind of always been my theme. And I mean, my theme like from then until more present. And then my mom was reading a magazine and someone had talked about pandas, which is, I was going to say the acronym, but it's like pediatric. It's
Auto
like,
neuro.
Oh,
it's similar to OCD.
okay.
It's PANDAS is an acronym, so it's similar. PANS or pandas. It's similar to OCD, but I don't know enough to talk about it. But
Okay.
either way, the article had mentioned OCD and pandas and PANS, and she said, "I think I know what you have," because we were all just clueless about what was happening at home and just like the constant tapping and like checking and things like that. The typical signs, but now it's easy to say that, but when you're in it and you're a parent
Yeah.
and it's like 2006, you
Yeah.
don't know what's happening.
Right.
Honestly, like at that point when I would Google OCD, like nothing would come up.
Mm.
It would be like CBT is the only way to get better from OCD. And then I went to a CBT therapist. And of course, we know that that's usually, at least at the time, was talk therapy only, and
Right.
about like what are what it's called when you're like a catastrophe and mind reading, like cognitive distortion. Is that what it's?
Distortions, yeah.
Distortion. Cognitive distortions. So things like that. And just mainly talk therapy. And so I was in talk therapy from around the age of 11 or 12 until 25. And 25 is when I got the proper treatment for OCD, which I learned about at the OCD conference that happens every year. And I'd gone because I had met Morgan by that time, and she just said, "You come to the conference." And so then I realized that I need to find the proper treatment. I think I might have been 24 then, but then 25, I started the proper treatment. And then I ended up going to the OCDI partial program in Boston. And that is where I had more intensive treatment, and then I went back home, and just continued doing ERP, which is exposure and response prevention therapy, which is the gold standard treatment for OCD. Yeah. And what I needed all along throughout the years where I was just getting talk therapy and wasting years and years of my life, because that doesn't help for OCD. So that's kind of my story. Now my OCD is so much better. It's still obviously there because I know I'm going to have it forever, but I don't need to go to therapy as much as previously. And I pretty much know how to control my OCD, but I still stay in therapy for just keep me on track.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing that. I think it just goes to show that when you have OCD, your themes never stay the same. You might have themes that kind of show up more often throughout your life, but like it's always going to ebb and flow and just go from like things that seem like more mental compulsions to more physical compulsions, and then back and forth. And so it's just really, yeah, it's a crazy disorder, and I totally understand. It's interesting. You talked about like the OCD conference, the IOCDF conference. And I remember my first time going to it, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I was just sitting there watching presenters present on like these crazy themes. Like I think it was pedophilia, OCD. I mean, it's not crazy themes, but like really, they were saying really graphic, intrusive thoughts, is what I'm trying to say, and using them as examples. And I felt so like, I was like, oh my God, is someone just going to come in here like a hotel staff and just like arrest all of us right now? Like this is like insane that we're just talking about it so openly. But it was like such an interesting moment because it was like it really made me realize that there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of intrusive thoughts, and that there's clinicians who are validating about it and who are trying to find a way to treat patients with OCD. And that, yeah, to normalize kind of intrusive thoughts was just something that was really new to me and really eye-opening, I think. And I think I don't know if that was a conference I met Molly at. But
yeah, I mean, how many conferences have you been to?
2, and I think it was the one in Denver. So yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah,
I remember sitting with you at the circular table at the party.
Yeah, exactly.
The conference party.
Right. Yeah, at the last day party. What about you, Morgan? Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I found myself nodding along when you're saying like the themes come and go. Because that was totally my experience. OCD is some of my earliest memories. Like I remember in kindergarten, they wanted us to move on from the art project, and I was like, but it's not perfect. I need to redo it. I had like magical numbers and like numbers that felt unsafe and would lead to my family dying. And so I would have to do compulsions in certain number of times and have them be good numbers, not bad numbers, to keep my family alive. And a lot of fear of fires, which I still have. It just kept changing and morphing. And I guess everyone just kind of assumed I was like an anxious kid, but they didn't know enough about OCD to put that label onto it. Like I had some awareness, and I would say, okay, well, if I just wait a couple years, this will turn into some other fear and the other one will go away. So I had some knowledge of what was happening, which is really odd for like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
To like kind of understand ERP. And I'd be like, well, what if I just like try not doing it? And I like kind of figured out ERP, but not enough to like actually treat myself. But when I went away to college, it kind of exploded into full-blown severe OCD. And that's when I ended up taking time off from school to do ERP, exposure and response prevention, just to kind of play catch up. It was just impossible to do school and treatment and OCD. Like there just weren't enough hours in the day. So I had to at least play catch up to try and get ahead of OCD. But since then, like Molly said, I'll always have OCD. I have a lot of fears around my pets lately. But it's nowhere near where it was. Like if I were to measure the amount of minutes or hours I spend on OCD in a day, now it would definitely be in minutes, whereas before it was a lot of hours.
Yeah, I can totally relate. Yeah, I think, yeah, there is definitely a point. I think for me, like peak pandemic was when it got really bad. The lack of social interaction and lack of like just being out there in the real world kind of got me in my head a lot more. And yeah, it was hours, I think. And now I think, ERP has helped me personally, but my new therapist actually uses more ICBT, which is kind of interesting.
Okay.
I don't know if either of you have heard of that.
Yeah, I've
Not
tried
much.
it.
I know it's new. Yeah.
Oh, you've
But
tried it?
I do think that it works for some people. I just couldn't really get myself to go into, like, we tried for, I was going to say weeks, but I think it might have been over a month or over a couple months. I can't remember, but we got to 1 week where I was like, okay, I think I've given it enough try and it's not for me, but I've had people who said it's great for them. So I'm not going to say it doesn't work or anything, because of course some people have said ERP hasn't worked for them. So you just have to find what works for you.
Right. Yeah. I think, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, ICBT stands for inference-based cognitive behavioral therapy. And I don't remember exactly who is the person who coined this expression. But the difference is that at least how my therapist explained it to me, is that ERP addresses the point at which you are about to perform a compulsion, and kind of it tries to stop the compulsion from happening, whereas ICBT addresses more the initial doubt and why you're having that initial doubt, and then tries to use kind of supporting experiences and logic in a way to address that doubt, which I think is very contradictory to how a lot of like ERP clinicians address OCD. I mean, they always say like logic is not going to help, because logic is, you're just going to come up with another what if or whatever, which is true, I think. So it's really like you have to fully buy into one. I feel like it's hard to do a mix, but yeah, I think for me in the beginning, ERP was more helpful, and then now I think ICBT has been more helpful for me. Another question I have for you all is how has being with Not Alone Notes and making all these notes, how has it impacted you personally? Like, what does it make you want to do for the next 5 to 10 years with this organization? How do you see yourself continuing to support the community?
That's what's kind of cool about Not Alone Notes. I never expected it to be this big or this long. It really was just a random idea I had, and I was like, well, I'll just start sending people notes. I'm so thrilled of what it's turned into, but really there were no future plans back then, so we don't have many future plans now. We're just kind of growing as we go and seeing what happens, expanding as we can.
And hope to reach more people that have OCD and feel alone and feel like they don't have anyone in their life that understands them. To answer your question, because there was a lot of questions in there. To answer one of the questions. No, it's okay. I'm kidding. I do think that Not Alone Notes has allowed me to talk to others in the OCD community, because before I was kind of watching from the outside of people who would post on Instagram or Twitter, and I would think, wow, that's incredible that they could talk about their story, but I would never be able to do that. And without Not Alone Notes, I don't see a way that I would have been able to do that. I tried through Instagram, but I just couldn't do it only through social media.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for Not Alone Notes for allowing me to have a way to talk to other people in the community.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think nowadays it's pretty common for people to bring their cause onto social media. And I think it's a good way to spread the message. But I think for people, like you said, who maybe don't feel as comfortable sharing really personal details online, it's still a good way to keep in touch with the community and people who want to be a little bit more anonymous.
5-10 years ago, OCD just wasn't talked about as much. 20 years ago, OCD was not nearly as much. But that's what's so cool, is it just keeps getting more well known.
Right. Well, yeah. Actually, I'm curious what you guys think about You know that trend that's like when you let your intrusive thoughts win? Like, what do you think about
Yes.
that?
I go back and forth because on one hand, like, I love that people are talking about intrusive thoughts, and like, yes, everyone does get intrusive thoughts, but it's also leads to misunderstanding about what is an intrusive thought and what is OCD. So it has its benefits, but it's also like, but that's not what OCD actually is.
Well, did you have
I don't know
something?
enough about the trend.
Oh, you don't? Oh, really? It's just like this like trend. I don't know if it's on TikTok too. I don't have TikTok, but like Instagram Reels, people will be like, when you let your intrusive thoughts win,
Yeah.
and then it's just like someone doing something really random, like I don't know,
That
like
they wanted to do.
yeah, that they wanted to do, but they just like didn't want to admit that they wanted to do, like getting like a really
Right.
crazy haircut or saying something really crazy in front of someone else implying that they wanted to do that. They just blurted it out.
Yeah.
Instead of it being
I
something they
just
didn't want to do.
no. I don't know if people who don't have OCD would ever make the connection that
Fair.
that relates to OCD. They'd just be like, haha, an intrusive thought. So I don't know. I feel like it may not. I don't know if I would have even connected the two necessarily because I'm like, yeah, everyone has intrusive thoughts, but when you have OCD, it interferes with your life. It impacts you a lot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, it's not, I think it's been picked up by, obviously like people with
Yeah,
OCD because,
absolutely.
I think, intrusive thoughts is just like one of the biggest like characteristics of OCD. So I think a lot of people have been commenting, saying things like, it should be impulsive thoughts and not like intrusive thoughts and things
Mhm.
like that. But
Mm.
yeah, I think there's always
I
two
think
sides to it.
I think what's more detrimental is when people in TV shows
Mm.
use OCD as in a way that isn't clearly OCD, and then people who are watching who don't know about OCD just assume that's what OCD is, kind of like the show Monk or something like that, like a show
What
similar to that.
what happened in Monk? I didn't watch that.
Oh, he's like very into cleaning and germs, and that's like
Oh,
they also portray it, which OCD can be that, but they portray it as that's the only thing, and it's like beneficial to him, which of
Like
course
helps him
OCD is
solve
not.
mysteries, or yeah, like
Right.
he's like a
mm,
detective, so it helps him solve the crimes. And without
Right.
his OCD, he wouldn't be OCD in quotes. He wouldn't be able to solve the crime.
I
Right.
see.
And
Yeah, I agree with Molly. I think I used to get a lot more angry when OCD was sort of misrepresented either by people around me or in the media. Because it really, like, I mean, that's not the only reason, but that is part of why I went so many years undiagnosed, is people just don't know what OCD is. And that is in part because of what we hear. So I think correct education is so important because it really does lead to earlier diagnosis.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think OCD is just it's still, I think at this point, interpreted as just people who like to clean. And I've had people at work
Right.
say it, like I've had friends say it before, and I think it's just a lack of awareness. I think even some of the people who say it might actually have OCD and they just don't even know. And so they just, I don't know. I think people say a lot of things like, "Oh, I got PTSD from this show or something," and it's like just being, they're just being facetious, like they're exaggerating. But I think it does
Right.
kind of misrepresent some of what that disorder actually is.
For sure. Again, like, I'm glad people are talking about these things more, but we have to talk about them in a way that, like, doesn't lead to harm.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, which is difficult, I think, with just how the internet's going nowadays. So
Yeah, I mean, obviously people do whatever they want, but
exactly. Well, I have just a few more questions for you. We can then wrap it up after that. But what would you want to tell someone who is struggling with OCD and any other disorders related to
you can go first, Molly. That's a hard one.
that?
I have so much.
um
No pressure. It could be anything. It could be like,
a long pause.
it's all gonna be okay.
Okay, well, that's reassuring. No, I'm
There's
kidding.
so many
No.
cliches that have been helpful, but they're cliche for a reason. So things like
Yeah.
riding the wave of anxiety, or like keep trying until something works. Like if
Mhm.
ERP doesn't work, try ICBT. Keep trying something will work. And I think keep telling someone until they understand, maybe this person won't understand what OCD is, but there's someone out there who gets it.
I also think, similar to what we talked about before, that it's helpful to follow people online that talk about OCD openly, so that even if you're not commenting or liking posts, but just observing and watching other people tell their story about OCD, it's helpful to hear other people's stories to learn that you're not alone, because we know that OCD can be super isolating and you feel like you're the only one going through this and feel like you're the only one with that intrusive thought. But there's plenty of people out there who have also thought the same exact thoughts as you. I like to say that we all share the same brain.
Yeah.
Because
Same.
that's true. We know what you're going through. Obviously, we may not have the exact same thoughts, but there's people out there who have had the same exact thoughts.
Yeah.
You know,
even the
I gotta
most
say,
taboo, what you feel is weird. Yeah.
I was gonna say you definitely should not do this, but in the times where I have Googled for reassurance on Reddit, like
Yeah.
I have definitely seen someone with the exact same thought as me, and I'm just like, wow,
Yes.
that's so reassuring. Oh shit, like that's why I'm not supposed to do this. Forgot, but it's also it makes you feel like you're not alone because like someone else is thinking this way, but they're thinking about it this way in the like r/OCD thread. So now I'm like, anyways. So, but yeah, so but it does confirm, that there are a lot of people who are literally thinking in this exact same kind of convoluted, obsessive way, and that you're not alone. So. Which is the whole point of your organization, which is a great name, Not Alone.
Yeah.
It's like simple, but it works so well.
It's definitely that balance between like reassurance of not being alone, but not OCD reassurance.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that's a hard, like a really, it's a hard line to draw, I think, when it comes to relaying your OCD struggles with loved ones. I think maybe it's just a matter of like defining how many times you can ask something, maybe just once.
Right.
All right. Well, my last question, and you can go one by one. If you don't have anything to say, no worries. It's just something I like to say. I've said to every single person since the beginning of this podcast is, what is one way you'll show yourself kindness this week?
I am trying to be proactive about eating because when I get anxious, I skip meals. And then I get hungry, which makes me really anxious. So then I skip meals, and it's this vicious cycle. For context, my fiance is out of town all summer, and he does all of the cooking. So I have to be really proactive about like, okay, we're gonna make this food, and we're gonna eat it before I'm starving. So I'm gonna do that this week.
That's a good one. Yes.
I am going to make sure that I do some art this weekend. My OCD has kind of gotten, like, not directly to the art, but it's a long story. But I haven't had my art supplies out for a bit, and so I did get an idea for a project of painting my fake Birkenstocks. And so that's my plan for the week, is to do more painting. And I also have a junk journal that I should bring out and work on that as well.
A junk journal? What is that?
Yeah, it's like a scrapbook kind of, but it started off as
like prompts.
No.
No? Mine did, I thought. Never mind.
That's a wreck this journal.
Oh, that's a wreck this journal. Okay, you're so right.
Mine's just a regular notebook, or it's blank, like doesn't have lines on it, but a junk journal is kind of where you take things throughout the week. So if you have like a sticker on your apple, or if you have a cereal box with like a fun character, and you'll cut it out and like stick it in your journal. But you don't have to, there's no rules. And I usually in my art, I'm pretty perfectionistic. And so the junk journal allows me to just like put random crap together, and it may not be perfect. And if it isn't perfect, I can just like glue something on top of it. And then, so I'm trying to think what I normally use, because I don't necessarily always use like junk necessarily, but if someone wrote me a card, or if I went to a concert and there's a concert ticket. So it's kind of more of a scrapbook, but then I'll also put random things, like Trader Joe's gives out stickers, usually for kids, but I always ask for them. And then I'll have like pages of just Trader Joe's stickers. Or if someone sends me a letter and I really like the stamp, then I'll cut out the stamp and add it. So sometimes it is technical junk, but other times it's just like fun things and memories.
I love that. Wow. I have never heard of this concept before, but I really like it. I feel like,
Oh, you should Google it. It's fun.
yeah. Oh my God, cool. Yeah, I feel like my problem with journals is like I'm so sporadic with them that it probably would take
Yeah.
like years for me to fill it up. But that I feel like at the end, it's like
I'm
literally a piece of
usually that
art.
way too. I'm usually don't complete journals, but I've already completed, I think I'm almost done with my second junk journal. And so that's impressive for me because I also buy a ton of journals and then never use them. But this one
Right.
is only images. And so it helps. And I'm also not necessarily making, like, it's not a sketchbook. I don't have to do the art. I don't
Mhm.
have to do the writing. You kind of do whatever you want. You throw whatever you want in there. And then I know in a couple years I'll look back and be like, this was so cool.
Yeah.
But now it doesn't have to be cool. But I know in a couple years I'll look back and be like, oh, remember that? Remember that?
It's like noticing the little things, like the sticker on the Trader Joe's apple or whatever. And yeah, so
Yeah.
super cute. Well, thank you both for being on this show. I really appreciate it. And thanks for sharing about your own stories and about Not Alone Notes. What's the website link if they want to get a note from you all?
Yeah, it's notalonenotes.org, and all our social media handles are at notalonenotes. So pretty easy to find us.
Awesome. Make sure to give them a follow and spread this podcast whenever you hear it. And I'll see you next time.